So I think that's been about a full 5 minutes. It's okay if folks are sort of trickling in after grabbing their drinks, their lunches, or just sort of stretching a bit. But I do want to keep us going so that we are able to hear from sort of all our panelists and from Brittany. We have a really exciting lineup coming up. So welcome back and welcome to the next session of our conference, which is really the park section. We'll be hearing shortly from our own Brittany Moser, who is our Director of Digital Learning Design, on different ways that we can cultivate belonging specifically in our online classrooms at Park. I know a lot of us noticed in the chat, Park is really unique in that way. So many of us are teaching at least partially online. So like a traditional face-to-face conference, we're going to hold all questions until the sessions have concluded. So we'll have a Q&A after both Brittany and our panelists speak. So if you have questions, write them down. You can also put them in the chat as Brittany and the panelists are speaking, and I will sort of, I'm going to monitor the chat and keep track of the themes as I have been doing. We'll make sure that even what doesn't get answered today, we think through and respond to you sort of even after the conference, because I have already seen questions come through that are important, impact our teaching, and deserve a really thoughtful response. So even if we don't get to it in these 2 short hours, we will think about it and find a way to respond to you and maybe more broadly everyone after the conference. But for now, I would like to turn it over to Brittany, who will be sharing with us first. Thank you, Brittany, so much for being with us here today.
No worries. Hi, everyone. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Perfect. Okay. Before we get started in our presentation on creating a sense of belonging, I do want to thank Gwen. She just gave us a solid plug in the chat about our digital learning resource hub. There is a bit in the resource hub on neurodiversity, and that does pertain to belonging and such. On a different unexpected note too, for anybody who is curious about strategies for, or even understanding neurodiversity a little bit more, in another life before I came to Park, I actually have a background as an autism specialist and worked a lot in online learning for students on the autism spectrum from the pandemic. So if you're ever interested in a conversation regarding that specifically, neurodiversity as a whole, I have a lot of tips and tricks and strategies that I'm more than happy to share with you. Anyway, so to our topic today, thank you everybody for being here on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Same as Erica, I am based in New Jersey and it is snowing outside, which is pretty and miserable all at once. My presentation is going to be a bit more rapid fire than the previous speaker, and hopefully it builds on some of the things that she was saying. And so let's kick it off. We're creating a sense of belonging in our online asynchronous environments, which is not an easy task. So our goals for this session are really simple. So I would love it if you take away from this session feelings of empowerment, feelings of being motivated to focus on creating a sense of belonging, especially it's the new year. We're all coming back feeling rejuvenated. So I hope that that is the feeling that you get once this is over, and that you can take away at least one strategy to implement either as a course developer who's developing right now or in the future, or as an online instructor in front of students currently. So why focus on belonging? I think is really important from the online perspective to really drive that home here. So typically, we create our courses, we facilitate these courses and the coursework, and then the students do their best to complete that coursework, right? It's really simple. We all hope that it goes great. We put a lot of time and effort into it. However, when we mix in this hidden magic of sense of belonging, some really important changes begin to happen. All of a sudden, the student investment in our course increases. And this is due to a couple of things, right? One is being that human connection piece. We can all remember that teacher that we had in school, the one that we had that we wanted to work hard for, and that's because there was that human connection. So that's the same here. When there's the human connection going on, the student investment increases because all of a sudden, like, there's a person behind that canvas shell. And that's really, really important. And then secondly, when that happens, they're also a lot more willing to be reaching out for support and help when they need it versus if they didn't feel connected to that person, that teacher behind the canvas shell, which of course is all going to lead to an increase in their grades, which is amazing, awesome for them, but a wonderful reflection on you too. So let's dive into the strategies, the tangible things that we can take away, the action items that we can do today. This is an obvious and simple strategy, but it does have a greater outcome than you would think, which is your personalized welcome message. This is where the students are going to get their very first impression of you, see you as a human being. It's also a great place for you to be bringing in your personality. You can share your hobbies outside of work, share some photos. Some people like to use Bitmoji for a bit of fun. I took my headshot and put it into an online website called Cartoonify. I'm slightly insulted by the result, but that's neither here nor there. I think that that is what it is. You can also create a one-pager about yourself, share it out with students, and yeah, you're just like, you're giving that first impression. Thinking through where you can share this, I think that's like a lot of where our brains go. Is like all these strategies are well and good, but how do I actually get that to the students in a real way? So of course you can share this out as an email, this information. You can also post an announcement. That's where a lot of online instructors have the most access to make any connections with the students, right, is through the announcements. So you can share your any tool, any one pager, any intro through your announcements, and that's going to be a good bet for you. CDEFs who are building the course and sometimes are also teaching the course as well, you can also consider a page within your Canvas shell where that information might live too. Moving on, next strategy is choosing fun and reasonable icebreakers. Now, before anyone rolls their eyes at me, I swear this doesn't have to be cringing. You can really be creative in this, it can surprise and awaken your students and boost that human connection, which is what we want, right? And then if you're a CDEV, this is really helpful for you because you can be intentional when thinking through icebreakers of what are those introductions, discussions that are built into our Canvas shells, what prompts are actually in those, right? Like you have the power within the building the course to make a change there. And then if you're an instructor, you can consider what external tools that you want to link in an email or the announcements to reach your students to set up those reasonable icebreakers or fun icebreakers. I do have some suggestions for this. So you can pose some fun and intriguing questions like 2 truths and a lie, classic one that most people love. If I won the lottery, a bit of daydreaming is always good. Childhood dream versus now. These are all fun prompts to just get people a bit loosened up, a little bit feeling comfortable in their environment and seeing that everybody's here. You're not the only one who might be feeling a little bit intimidated. We're all here together. You can also design some online activities, such as a game called Caption This Image. You post a cartoon or a funny photo and students can respond with a clever or a funny caption. Taking a picture of something, you can have your students upload photos from their environment, really showing that everybody is in a different situation and just breaking down that fourth wall, I guess, of where everybody is at. And then a personal favorite is describing yourself in a tweet. Really digging into those Twitter archives to find a clever, funny tweet to describe yourself. There are a ton of external tools you can use to reach the students. So a one-pager will come out of this presentation with all of the strategies. All of these will be linked in that one-pager, and you can share that out into your announcements or in an email. Next strategy is creating a separate chat space. So I love this strategy, and it was used when I was an online university student, which was very effective to me. So I can say that firsthand from the student perspective, and that is because it is a way less formal mode of communication than email, and it allows for more natural and fluid interactions between professor and student. I would just say, as a heads up, double check with your program coordinator and set some parameters with students within setting up a separate chat space. Things like the language use that we are all agreeing to as a community, being respectful of each other, things like that. And Teams, coincidentally, is the perfect tool to set up a separate chat space. So it's free. Most people have access to it. Most people have some kind of account, and it's very easy to create. And then they also have a specific setup for classes, like exactly for this purpose for you to use. You can give descriptions on your class, and you can share that link out once you've created your team space to your students through the announcements or through email. Next, we're getting towards the end, is intentional and personal feedback. Ideally, this is going to be timely for students. It doesn't make sense if it's too early or too late, particularly if it's pertaining to academic matters. But really, it just shows students that you're paying attention. Brownie points if you can bring in some of the stuff that you learned about those students in those introductory phases, right? If you can make some connections to the stuff going on in their lives, the stuff that you know about them, into whatever feedback you're giving them, great, that's wonderful. You know, you can be bringing in their perspective and like drawing out of them a little bit more. And then on this, it's also just a great wherever possible strategy, you know, like online, we have to make the connections ourselves. And so when we're giving feedback, particularly on assignments, discussions, whatever, like take it where you can get it. And then of course, being really specific when you're providing feedback. So it's not helpful to leave feedback to a student that's like needs more work or improve this area, right? We have to be giving more actionable things that they can do to help them move forward. And lucky last, seeking feedback from our students. So this has such a lasting effect and will truly improve your role as an instructor. I can't stress that enough. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want to ask students for their feedback on your instruction or on the course as a whole, separate to the student survey that we do ask at the end, because I'm not super convinced that that is utilized as much and it's not as personal, right? But it can be as simple or complicated as you want. You can ask them in an email, you can set up some kind of online form and send them the link for them to fill out. But if you're going to do this, I would just stress that you make it that one step more meaningful and share the feedback with the group about what you found was meaningful in the feedback for you as an instructor, because that's modeling a true growth mindset as an instructor, and you're showing the students that this is a safe space. This is a space where feedback is welcomed, and I want to make sure that this environment is feeling good for everyone, and you're setting them up for that. So quick summary. We have a personalized welcome message, fun and reasonable icebreakers, separate chat space, intentional and personal feedback, and then seeking feedback. So those are the strategies I recommend as we approach the task of creating safe, supportive, belonging, online, asynchronous learning environments. It's like a whole thing. And I'm always here. If you want to, if your brain is going, you're thinking, oh, that sounded cool, or you just got a different idea. I have office hours. I know that in the last presentation, we kind of didn't talk about office hours being that approachable, but I promise I'm here in my office hours, Tuesdays at 9 a.m., Thursdays at 12 p.m. I usually post the Zoom link in my monthly newsletter, and I'm more than willing to help you set up something, brainstorm, whatever it is. I'm very passionate about this. So thank you so much. It was great presenting for you all today.